A man brought me a Camry once, barely 2 years old, ran perfect the week before. Now the dash was lit up like a slot machine, and the engine stumbled at every stoplight. There was nothing wrong with that engine. He'd spent his Saturday afternoon making the engine bay shine with a pressure washer he borrowed from his neighbor, and the water did the rest. He figured he'd done the car a favor. What he'd actually done was book himself 2 weeks of headaches and a bill he didn't need. And I've seen that same afternoon walk into my shop more times than I could ever count. My name is Kenji Tanaka. I spent most of my life under the hoods of these cars, a lot of it in Japan, before I retired. And of all the well-meaning things owners do to their cars on a weekend, washing the engine bay is the one that costs the most money for the least reason. So today I want to walk you through exactly what goes wrong when you do it, and why the people who design these cars would tell you to leave that space alone, because that bay is built to live in the rain. It is not built for a man with a hose and a Saturday. Number 1. The alternator is sitting right out in the open, and it was never sealed. Look at where your alternator lives. It's bolted low on the front of the engine, out in the weather, and if you look closely at the housing, you'll see vents cut right into it. Those vents are there on purpose. The alternator makes heat when it makes electricity, and it needs air moving through it to stay cool, which means it's open. Inside those vents are copper windings, a set of small contacts called slip rings with little carbon brushes riding on them, and a bank of diodes that turns the power into what your car can use. What it can't handle is you standing 2 feet away aiming a jet of water straight into those vents. That water gets onto the copper, and copper and water make corrosion. It gets into the bearings and washes the grease out. It gets onto the diodes, which do not want to be wet. Give it a few weeks, and you get a whining bearing, or a battery light that flickers on at night, or one cold morning the car just doesn't start because the alternator quietly died from the inside. It's a few $100s for the part alone on most of these cars, and the miserable part is, it wasn't failing when you started. You drowned a healthy one. Number 2. The connectors are built to shrug off splash, not to survive a direct hit, and the engineers did seal them, but understand what they sealed them against. They sealed them against rain, against the spray that comes up off a wet road, against humidity, a splash. That's the job those seals were designed for. A pressure washer is a different animal. It drives water with real force, and it will push right past a seal that was only ever meant to keep out a light spray. Once water gets behind that seal, it can't easily get back out. It sits on the metal pins inside, and it corrodes them. Corroded pins mean higher resistance, and higher resistance means the signal that sensor was sending gets weak or scrambled by the time it reaches the computer. And here's where that Camry story comes from. The car runs fine when you park it, you wash it. The next day, or a few days later, the check engine light comes on, or the idle goes rough, and it feels like it came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came from water sitting in a connector you couldn't see. Number 3. There's a sensor in the intake that measures the air going into your engine, and water is the one thing it can't take. Follow the big rubber tube from your air filter box toward the engine, and somewhere along it sits a little sensor called the mass airflow sensor. Its job is to measure how much air the engine is breathing, so the computer knows exactly how much fuel to add. And it does that with a tiny heated wire, thinner than a human hair, sitting right in the moving airstream. A wash gets it 2 ways. The first is direct. People spray degreaser and water all around the intake, and if any of it works its way in and lands on that hot wire, it throws the reading right off. Now the computer is guessing at the fuel. The second way is worse, and I want you to hear this one clearly. If you're blasting water near the opening where the engine draws its air in, you can push water down that intake toward the cylinders. And here's the thing about an engine. It can squeeze air all day long, but it cannot squeeze water. In a bad case, that's how a connecting rod bends. And on an older car that repair costs more than the whole car is worth. Number 4. A modern engine, the ignition coils sit down in deep wells, and wells hold water. Older engines had spark plug wires you could see. Most of the cars you're driving now don't. Each spark plug has its own little ignition coil that sits right on top of it, down inside a tube in the valve cover. A deep, narrow well, one for each cylinder. You spray the top of the engine, water runs down and pools in the bottom of those wells, right on top of the coil and the plug. Water and high voltage electricity don't get along. The spark starts jumping where it shouldn't, and you get a misfire. The engine shakes at idle, the light flashes, and the car feels like it's about to stall. Sometimes the water sits long enough to corrode the connector down on the coil, and then the misfire doesn't leave. And now you're buying a coil, or a whole set of them, for a problem you made with a garden hose. Number 5. The fuse box up top drains rain, not a hose held against it. Pop your hood and you'll usually find a black plastic box, sometimes two, full of fuses and relays. And yes, it's designed to live under the hood where it might get rained on, so it has little drain holes in the bottom to let water weep back out. Those drains were sized for rain. They were never sized for you holding a stream of water against the lid until the thing fills up. When water gets into that box faster than it can drain, it sits across the contacts, and it bridges connections that were never meant to touch. That gives you the strangest problems in the whole car. Windows that quit, a horn that sounds by itself, a cooling fan that won't shut off, lights doing things they shouldn't, faults that come and go, that a shop can spend hours hunting because nothing in there is broken. It's just wet. Number 6. That thin layer of grime on your engine is doing a job, and the job is telling you when something starts to leak. This is the one nobody thinks about, and it might be the most useful thing I say today. An older engine bay has a light film on it. A little dust, a little dry oil residue, the honest patina of a car that's been driven. When a seal or a gasket first starts to weep, just barely, the very first sign is a small, fresh, wet spot. And a fresh, wet spot shows up clear as day against a background of dry dust. You catch it early. You see a valve cover gasket that's just beginning to seep, and you handle it for very little money before it ever becomes a real leak on your driveway. Now go and detail that bay until every surface is spotless. The next time a seal starts to weep, there's no dry dust for it to show up against. The seep spreads across clean metal and blends right in, and you don't notice a thing until oil is dripping onto the garage floor, and the repair is many times what it would have been. You didn't just clean the engine, you blindfolded yourself. In Japan, we have a habit of leaving well enough alone, and this is exactly the kind of thing that habit quietly protects you from. And everything I've learned about keeping one of these cars running well past 200,000 miles, I've written down in a plain maintenance manual over on my website, if you'd ever like it all in one place. That's all I'll say about it. Now let's get back to the car. Number 7. A perfectly clean engine bay can actually cost you money when you go to sell. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody who knows cars, looking to buy a used one. They open the hood, and the engine bay is showroom clean on a car with 140,000 miles on it. What's the first thought that goes through an experienced buyer's head? Not how nice, it's what are they hiding? A detailed bay reads like somebody scrubbed away the evidence, and a careful buyer either walks or knocks money off the price because now they don't trust what they can't see anymore. Fresh wash can hide an active leak. Degrease a bay that's got a slow oil seep, and for a few days that seep is invisible, long enough to slip past a sale or a quick inspection. If you're the one buying, and you open a hood and the engine bay is suspiciously clean, that's your cue to look harder, not to relax. The clean is the warning. Number 8. Let me kill the myth you've probably heard, because getting this one right matters. You've likely been told that if you spray cold water on a hot engine, you'll crack the block from the thermal shock. That one is mostly a myth on a modern car. Your engine gets rained on when it's hot. You drive through a puddle and throw cold water all over a hot block, and it's fine. The metal in there is built to take big temperature swings. That's its whole life. So no, you're not going to crack your engine with a garden hose. But don't take that as your permission slip, because there are 2 real reasons to let a hot engine cool before you go near it with water. The first reason is you. A hot engine makes steam the instant water hits it, and steam burns are no small thing. And there's scalding coolant and hot metal right there where your hands would be. The second reason is the exhaust. That manifold and the pipe coming off it get glowing hot and thin. Hot exhaust metal genuinely does not love a sudden blast of cold water. So the cool down rule is a good one, and I want you keeping it. Number 9. The degreaser is harder on your car than the dirt ever was. When people wash an engine, they don't just use water. They reach for a strong degreaser, spray the whole bay down, and let it soak. And that stuff is good at its job. The problem is everything else it soaks into on the way. Your engine bay is full of rubber and plastic. Hoses, the serpentine belt, seals, the insulation on all that wiring. A harsh degreaser, used over and over, dries that rubber out and makes it brittle before its time. A hose that should have given you another 5 years starts to crack early. Seals get hard and start to weep, which is the very leak we just talked about learning to spot. And there's an immediate one too. Get degreaser on your serpentine belt, the belt that drives your alternator and your water pump and your power steering off one loop, and that belt goes slick. Now it slips on the pulleys, and you get that squeal on a cold morning, and the things it's supposed to be turning don't get turned properly. Number 10. Here's the thinking behind all of it, and the careful way to do it if you still want to. Step back and look at what we've covered. Every single risk points the same direction. A dirty engine bay does not hurt your car. Not one bit. It's purely cosmetic. But the act of cleaning it opens up real, expensive ways for things to go wrong. So you'd be trading a genuine risk for a cosmetic reward, and that's a trade that never makes sense to me. That said, I know some of you have a show car, or you're getting it ready to sell honestly, or you just can't stand a grimy bay and I'm not going to talk you out of it. Start with the engine dead cold. Not warm, cold. Cover everything electrical you can reach with plastic bags. The alternator, the fuse box, the air intake opening, the battery and its connections, any big connector you can see. Wrap them and keep the water off them. Then take that pressure washer and put it back in the corner where it belongs, and don't touch it. You use a damp cloth, or a spray bottle, or a hose set to the gentlest trickle. A soft brush and a little gentle degreaser worked in by hand will lift more grime than blasting ever did, and it keeps the chemical where you put it, instead of soaking into every hose. Stay off the connectors entirely. When you're done, dry everything you can reach with a rag or some compressed air, pull those bags off, and then start the engine and let it run a good while so its own heat carries off whatever moisture is left behind. Do it that way, and you'll be fine. In 50 years around these cars, I've almost never cleaned an engine bay, and neither have most of the careful owners whose cars quietly outlast everybody else's. We leave it be, and we spend that Saturday checking the fluids and listening to the engine instead. That's the slower, quieter Japanese way of keeping a car forever, and it has never once left me standing on the side of the road. If you want the habit that actually saves the engine, and it's very nearly the opposite of this one, go watch the video up on the screen now. I'll see you in that one.